What is up, everybody? Welcome to the MMA Engine. This is probability for UFC San Diego. We're going to be taking a deep dive into these props. We have Marlon Vera going against Dominic Cruz. Should be a very fun card. As always, I am here with Uncle Wheezy. Wheezy, what is up? Are you looking forward to some probability here?
Looking forward to it, man. You know what? I'm looking forward to it more than usual for a couple of reasons this week, Brady. Number one, I spent the entire weekend, well, actually the last couple of weekends, redoing this prop template so that when you look at the left side of the screen there, on the purple side of the screen where you see violence, that's where we've got all the under bets. The fight doesn't go to decision, the under 2.5, the under 1.5, even the under 0.5. And then we've got the fight doesn't start round 3 and fight doesn't start round 2. Right underneath that, we have the betting odds. Right underneath that, we have the implied probability of the betting odds. And then we have the 3 analytics that we've been using here on probability stacked directly beneath those. The divisional finish rate minus the implied probability of the betting line, the fighter finish rates minus the implied probability of the betting line, and the fighter finish rates minus the divisional finish rates for all these different analytics. I've got 3-round analytics going back to 2013 for fight doesn't go to decision, under 2.5, under 1.5, under 0.5, fight doesn't start round 3, fight doesn't start round 2. We sorted it all by division. It's all available in the analytics page, which is all the way over here. I have all the 3-round information. Fight goes, fight doesn't go, over 0.5. Under 0.5. The fight doesn't start rounds 2 and 3. The fight starts rounds 2 and 3. Got all those analytics piped through into the template so that we can analyze the shit out of all these numbers, Brady, figure out where these bookies are making mistakes, figure out where we have an advantage over these guys, figure out ways to stack cash tickets like flapjacks. But the other thing that I'm excited about is that I spent so much time redoing this prop template that I haven't even really gotten to look at the lines yet. So I'll be kind of looking at them the same as you guys for like the first time right now, because it basically took me up until now to get all this work done, Brady. But the work's done. The template is done. The individual coding, which was a nightmare, is all done. Now we just got to plug in the stats, let the analytics do the work, and let's find some spots.
Let us do it. Cannot wait to break it down with the new and improved prop template here. Do want to shout out the chat before we get started. We got UFC Egg in the first one in the chat. What is up, UFC Egg? We got Daz in the chat. We got Propaholic. We have Victor in the chat. We got Dylan. We got Mushroom. What is up, Mushroom? Rob, Philip. See who else we got in here. We got Kiwi, Papa Chuck, Kevin. We got Andy G. What is up, Andy G? We got Dylan. We got Austin G. We have Jada. I think I got, how could I forget Dan Goldstein? How could I forget you, Dan? And then we also got Carlos as well. All right, guys, I say we get into it. Tonis, I see you also. I say we get into it. And as always, we're going to start with the very first fight of the night. And I have a feeling this bout order is going to change. But as of now, we're going to be talking about a fight we talked about last week. We have Ariane Lipski going against Priscila, catch a beating. We have the over-under set at 2.5 rounds, the over 2.5 minus 170. The under 2.5 plus 140. The fight goes to decision minus 155, and the fight doesn't go to decision is plus 125. Wheezy, what is sticking out on this one here?
Okay, so right now we're just going to take a look at this fight doesn't go to decision line sitting here at plus 125. The implied probability of that line is 44.44%. When we compare the divisional finish rate of the 135-pound division and we subtract the implied probability of 44.44%, we see we're overpaying by about 9.35% there. But when we take the fighter finish rates, which is actually 50% at the UFC level, as 3 of their 6 combined wins and 4 of their 8 combined losses have been finishes. So 7 of their 14 combined fights have finished inside the distance. That's 50% of those fights. So the implied probability of the line being only at 44% says that we're getting an edge when we compare the 2 fighters' histories to what we're paying in the line. And then we also have the fighter finish rates compared to the divisional finish rate. Now, the divisional finish rate for 135-pound women in 3-round fights is right around 35%. And I've got that analytic right down here. It's 35.1%, as we can see right there. So when we take the 50% and we subtract that 35, or we take, and we subtract that 35%, we see we're getting a 14.9% edge on the books here. So we can kind of see negative 9.35, plus 5.56, plus 14.9 here. That's what we're looking at. That is telling us that the violence bets here are still bettable and still looking pretty good. As we go over here to the fight goes to decision on the non-violent side of the sheet, Brady, we see minus 155 for fight goes. That's 4.2% better than the implied probability of the line, as about 65% of these fights are going to decision. But then when we compare the individual fighters' finish rates to the implied probability of the line and to the divisional finish rate, we see we're overpaying here about almost 11% and 15%. And we still see good little plus numbers here for the under 2.5 as well. 8.33% break and a 21.52% break. So there's an interesting thing with the women's 135-pound fights, and it's that when we compare the under 2.5 to the fight goes to decision, we could see fights finish inside the distance 35% of the time, but they finish under 2.5 rounds 28.48% of the time. What that tells us is that almost 7% of women's bantamweight fights finish in that last 2.5 minutes. So if you're looking to bet an over, always take the over 2.5 instead of the fight goes for those bantamweight fights, because there's usually only about a 3 to 5% break there in price when you go down, but you're really getting a 7% break. So you want to always take that over 2.5 instead of the fight goes for these fights, because they finish at a much higher percentage in that last 2.5 minutes of the third round. So, but the prop template, Brady, I know it's a little bit long-winded for the first one, but I wanted to give everybody an idea of how this new template is working and where the analytics that really matter are, and they are right in these lines right below the implied probabilities here. And we see a lot of nice little plus numbers here under the fight doesn't go and under the under 2.5.
Sounds good. I like it. Yeah, that fight doesn't go. We talked about it last week. It was like it opened up. What was it? Like plus 155. It opened up. It was there for a little bit. It went to like plus 140-ish, and then now it is currently sitting at plus 125. So there has been some money continuing to come in on that fight doesn't go decision. I do lean towards that way as well. Obviously, Priscila catch a beating, throws with a ton of power. Lipski's been knocked out 3 times, and then Lipski on the flip side has been submitted, or Cachoeira has been submitted twice, and Lipski does have some submissions on her record. So I do think violence is the way I would look here. Let's move on to the next fight here. Another fight that we were supposed to have last week, getting moved on to this card. Kind of a weird one here. Josh Quinlan going against Jason Witt. We have the over set at, if I can pull it up here, there it is. The over is set at, there is. Yep. 2.5 rounds. So the over 2.5 is plus 115. The under 2.5 is minus 145. This is on 5 dimes. BetOnline has the over under at 1.5. The over 1.5 minus 165. The under 1.5 plus 135. So this is interesting. So the fight goes to decision is plus 180 on BetOnline. The fight doesn't go is minus 225. But on 5 dimes, the fight goes to decision is plus 140, and the fight doesn't go to decision on 5 dimes is minus 170. So huge difference there between the books, Weezy.
Yeah, you could take fight goes at plus 180, put an appropriate bet size on the minus 170, and get a guaranteed profit no matter what happens, whether it goes or it doesn't go. Whenever there's an inversion in the market right there, there's free money for you. So it's always good to know when those things happen that you can take advantage of them if you have both books. It's called arbitrage, and it's free money, and it's a beautiful thing. But in this one here, we can see that we're going to overpay when we compare the metrics to the long-term metrics to the implied probability of the line. Minus 225 for fight doesn't go to decision is a 69.23% implied probability, but only about 49% of these fights are actually finishing inside the distance at 170 pounds. So we're actually overpaying by about 20.51% there, which is no good. But we're overpaying by about 2.56% when we compare the fighter finish rates, which is 4 of 6, but it's actually 5 of 6 because one of these was turned to a no contest for Quinlan when it actually finished in the first round. So the numbers that we have are not quite right. And we talked about this, I believe, last week too, Brady, in that Jason Witt, that Barberena fight almost finished like 3 times in the 3rd round. And then we know that Quinlan's fight finished inside the distance too. So even though this says 4 of 6, this could easily be 6 of 6 and 100%. And when we compare those finish rates at 66.67% in a small sample size to the finish rate for the division, we see we're underpaying by about 18%. So these guys do finish at a much higher percent than the division does. But what we know about Jason Witt is that all 8 of his losses as a pro have come inside the distance. And we don't really know much about Quinlan other than he's tested positive for steroids before. And now, even after being suspended for 9 months, he was found with trace elements of a banned steroid in Nevada, but not a banned steroid in California. So they moved the fight from Nevada to California so that Quinlan could fight. So, there's a big chance that this dude is still a cheater. And he was cheating before anyway. That's a proven thing. He got caught cheating and he was suspended for 9 months. So that a juice head against a guy with a bad chin leads to violence, but Jason Witt, on the other hand, is somebody that can win minutes with the wrestling. So I guess it just kind of feels like whatever way you see this fight going, that's the side that you want to be on. You can take a chance and take that fight goes to decision at plus 180. And what your rationale would be there, Brady, is you say, okay, maybe I think that Witt is going to win minutes with the wrestling. Maybe I think he's going to easily get this to the ground and be able to hold Quinlan down for long enough that Quinlan doesn't land a big shot on the feet and knock out Witt. If that happens, I'm only paying 35.71% implied probability, but 50% of these fights are going to decision. So we're underpaying by 15.57% there when we compare it to the long-term benchmark. If you think Quinlan just sleeps this dude, maybe just take that fight doesn't go to decision at minus 225. But it's overpriced. It's overpriced by 20.5% when we compare it to the long-term benchmark, Brady. So that's not good. That's not something that we want to be in the habit of overpaying that much. So this is going to be an easy one to pass on because the line is too juiced. And I really do believe that Jason Witt might really frustrate you if you pick violence here because he can easily get takedowns and win minutes on top. It's something that he's done over and over again at the UFC level.
Yeah, and I think there's a couple interesting ways to play this fight. Like Andy Mush brings it up. I'm going to blast the decision only for Jason Witt. So on DraftKings, they had it at minus 125 there. I don't mind that. And then as far as Quinlan goes, I do think Quinlan does finish this fight. He is around like minus 250 on the money line. Quinlan inside the distance is minus 150 on BetOnline. Would really like a better price than that. The knockout prop on BetOnline is minus 110 on 5 dimes. It's like plus 125. I don't know. I think I might just stay away from it. It's a sketchy fight. It's a sketchy fight. We have a Jenny guy against a cheater. It's so sketchy. And then somebody was saying like this fight like may not even happen yet. Like it's not even 110% confirmed yet. Like they still have to go back and do some checks on the tests and stuff like that. So I don't know. I think I might just stay away from this one, Weezy. If I had to pick, I'd say it does finish, but you are laying a hefty price tag at least on BetOnline. If I had 5 dimes minus 170, I don't mind that, but sadly we do not have 5 dimes.
Yeah, we got to get 5 dimes. We've been saying it over and over and over again. Oh, yeah. We got to do it, Brady. But I think I'm going to be staying away from this one as well. That Witt decision only is a cheeky bet. Witt by decision, if you think that he can do this, is going to be fat because he's already plus 200 just on the money line. So you might be able to get something really good on Witt by decision. Interesting fight. Let's hope it happens because I'd like to see Quinlan in there against a good minute winner like Witt.
Yeah, me too. I hope it does. And by the way, Witt by decision is plus 450 on BetOnline. I think that's how he probably wins this one. But yeah, I don't think I'll be touching this fight. All right, we'll move on to the next fight here. We have Youssef Zalal going against Damon Blackshear. We have the over-under is set at 2.5 rounds. The over 2.5 on BetOnline, minus 220. The under 2.5 rounds is plus 180. The fight goes to decision. This is on 5 dimes, sitting at minus 175. and the fight doesn't go to decision is sitting at plus 135. We talked about this one a little bit on Stat Diggers, Wheezy, last night, and we were kind of leaning that over, and that fight goes. But it looks like BetOnline only has that over as of now.
Yeah, I've found some lines out there. A fight doesn't go at plus 135, and under 2.5 at plus 180, and under 1.5 at plus 260. Yeah. This thing here, we just have to be aware that all 6 of Youssef Zalal's UFC fights have went to decision, and that all of his fights prior to being in the UFC were finishes. So this guy is a guy who is a can crusher, able to finish regional scene competition, but now that he's up here in the big leagues, he's more of a minute winner, and we've even seen it with the fighting style that he brings, right? He's definitely a guy that is going to try to put you up against that cage and win minutes, land a little bit of dirty boxing, go for takedowns, and just try to wear on you. And he's got really good conditioning. That's one thing that Youssef has had, is been able to push that pace, do it for a full 15 minutes, and really grind out fights. And we got Blackshear taking this fight on short notice, so that does matter. But yeah, I mean, Zalal's not somebody that we can really think of as a finisher at this level yet, but there's a couple of things that worry me. Number one, always regression is something that can happen. Just because the 6 fights in a row went to decision doesn't mean the 7th one's not going to finish inside the distance. The other thing is that Youssef Zalal is cutting down to 135, and I didn't really see any additional weight to cut when he was at 145. Sometimes this worries me. I remember when they were saying Jose Aldo was going to cut down to 135, and I was like, dude, Aldo had trouble making 145. How the hell is he going to make 135? Now, Aldo figured out a way to do it, and he did it. But we haven't seen Youssef Zalal in a minute. And look, Youssef Zalal is a young man, so these cuts just, that you can handle them when you're his age, but he's been handling them down to 145. Now at 135, it just gets much harder, and he's going to be getting bigger. He's still going to be growing into that body of his age. So it does worry me a little bit that he could potentially be a little bit less conditioned if this weight cut really wears on him, because everything on the prop template, 6 of 6 fights going to decision combined for these two guys is telling you that you bet the overs in this fight. But at the same time, what if Zalal's weight cut is brutal and he looks like shit on the scales? You're not going to be happy holding that ticket. So I really want to see Youssef on the scales before I commit to betting this fight at all.
Yeah, that makes sense, and I agree. I'll have to see. Zalal does look like it. He's taken a while off. It's weird because he was like fighting like every couple months, it feels like, but he took a couple months off. So I'm hoping he's able to make this weight cut. I'm checking out his Instagram now. Really no pictures of him, so can't really see how he looks. And I'll have to see at the weigh-ins there. But yeah, we have the fight goes minus 175 on 5 dimes. The fight doesn't go up plus 135. I don't think we'll be able to get access to that minus 175. We'll have to see what BetOnline comes out with. But I would lean towards the over. The fight goes decision. Not something I'm running to the window for, though.
Yeah, me neither. It's a good look, and like I say, if Zalal looks good on the scales, then yeah, I mean, there's a good chance that does go over, and even like the over 1.5 at minus 350 is less overpriced. Like we see here, it's 8.77 overpriced compared to the divisional finish rate, but we're overpaying 12% here and 13% here, and it's more likely to go over 1.5 than it is 2.5 where fight goes. So minus 350 could be a potential parlay piece if you're looking for, a non-greasy 4-legger or something like that, especially if Zalal does look good on the scales. But until I see Zalal on the scales, I am not touching these over bets. And if he looks like total trash on the scales, I might even try to push for a fight doesn't go or something like that at plus money.
Sounds good to me. Yeah, we'll have to see on Friday there. Move on to the next fight. We have Ode Osbourne going against Tyson Nam. And typically when you think of Ode Osbourne, you absolutely think of some violence. And it looks like the odds makers are all over this one. We have the over-under is no over-under yet. We have the fight goes to decision on 5 dimes plus 125. The fight doesn't go to decision on 5 dimes is minus 165. So they have caught on to Ode Osbourne and Ode Osbourne violence.
Absolutely. And we can see right here when we compare the finish rates of the two fighters at the UFC level, which is 7 of 11 of their fights have finished inside the distance. That's 63.64%. when we compare that to the divisional finish rate at 125, which is 40%, we see we're getting a 23% break there, and we're getting a 1.37% break when we compare the fighter finish rates at 63.64% to the implied probability of the line at minus 165, which is 62.26%. So we get a little bit of a break there, but then we see that when we compare what we're paying on this line at 62.26% to the long-term benchmark, which like I said, is right around 40%, we're overpaying by 21.75% there. So, these fights are going to have to finish at a much higher percent than the benchmark for the division in order for you to cash this bet. And so then what do we think of the stylistic, components of this matchup? Both of these guys throw hands, and Osbourne's huge for the division, and Tyson Nam is 38, and he's got a lot of tread on the tires. So, I mean, stylistically, I'm leaning violence, but paying minus 165 for a fight doesn't go in a men's flyweight fight is always a risky proposition.
Yeah, I would need a much better price because Tyson Nam is extremely durable. He has like 12 losses, only 3 of them by knockout, and his last knockout loss was almost 10 years ago against Marlon Vera. The other 2 knockouts came back in 2008 and 2006. So this guy's tough. So I could see this sneaking over, going to decision. Am I going to bet it? Probably not. But I think it's just going to be a pass for me. I think this fight probably ends inside the distance, but I would need a much better price than minus 165. Pretty easy pass for me, in my opinion.
Yeah, it is. I feel exactly the same way because Nam is so durable, because we've seen Osbourne actually go to decision once at the UFC level, and it was a bit of a shock when it happened, but it's like, yeah, that's going to happen when you're fighting the higher level guys, and Nam's been around the block.
Yes, he has for a while. He's 38 years old,
Yeah.
which is kind of nuts. But yeah, we'll see. This should be a fun fight, though, and including this next one, Weezy. I am really, really looking forward to this fight. I've had violence circled, but Bet Online, we're gonna have to give him the shame, Weezy, because Bet Online right now has the fight doesn't go at minus 400. 5 Dimes has the fight doesn't go at minus 265. Like it's nuts. Fight goes to decision on Bet Online plus 300. Fight goes to decision on 5 Dimes plus 185. Another instance where there is a huge discrepancy between these lines, Weezy. It's nuts.
Yeah, and it's just them, it's just Bet Online saying, please don't bet this here, bet it over there, As a matter of fact, what they're doing is they're putting fight goes to decision at plus 300, which is crossing the market because you can get it at minus 265 for fight doesn't go on 5 Dimes. So what they're doing is they're going to take in a lot of that fight goes to decision money, and this fight is not going to decision. It's probably not even getting out of the first round. Charlie Ontiveros is brittle, and Gabriel Benitez is just not very good, in my opinion. I mean, you look at this guy's UFC wins, and he's just not a world beater. He's never beaten a guy that's still with the organization, and he's never beaten a guy who has a winning record in the UFC. And he's getting older. And, I think everybody just kind of repeats the line that we hear from the coach. Oh, never held pads for anybody that kicks harder. Well, okay, we heard that 10 years ago. Now what? Now what is Gabriel Benitez doing for us lately? So I could see Ontiveros landing a big shot, knocking out Benitez. I could easily see Benitez landing one well-placed kick anywhere on the body, and Ontiveros just looking for the door, which is something we've seen him do over and over again. Fight doesn't go to decision at minus 400. We don't want to parlay shit at minus 400, but that's a parlay piece if you're willing to parlay things that are that wide. This fight absolutely finishes inside the distance. I mean, you look at 18 combined losses overall for Ontiveros and Benitez, and 14 of them are inside the distance. That's 77.78%. And then the stylistic components of this matchup are such that these guys are going to stand in front of each other, and that's where they both do their most dangerous work, on the feet. I think Benitez has 1 takedown attempt in 12 UFC fights, and Ontiveros has none. So, these guys are going to stand and bang, and they both bring a ton of power, and they're both not very durable. So somebody's getting served here.
Yeah, like Benitez has been knocked out 4 times in the UFC. That's a ton. Nama knocked him out. Billy Quarantillo knocked him out. Sadiq Youssef knocked him out. And he was also knocked out by Andre Fili. And then on the flip side, he's finishing fights. I think he's finished like 4 out of 6 fights. And then we have Charlie Ontiveros, who, has been finished 8 times, as has Jason Witt. I think Jason Witt is a little bit more durable than Charlie Ontiveros, though. Like you said, one leg kick, it could be over. One body kick, it could be over. And then Ontiveros offensively, he's like a Jordan Wright, right? Like he's very explosive offensively, has very hard kicks, and Benitez is getting up there in age. He's been knocked out a ton. I think somebody is getting knocked out here, honestly, and probably in the first round. So I don't typically like betting under 1.5 rounds, but if I can get a good price on under 1.5, I'll be glad to take that. I don't really see this fight going over 1.5, and I really don't see this fight getting into the second round. I think they're just going to stand and bang. Both guys dangerous, both guys not durable. I think this fight finishes in the first, Wheezy.
Yeah, I think you're right, dude. And the stylistic components, like I said, lead me to believe that nobody's trying to win minutes here. They both fight like they're double parked. So yeah, I think that this one's going to finish quickly.
Sounds good. Yeah, 5 dimes minus 265. The fight doesn't go. That's a really good line. Bet online minus 400. I'm curious to see what DraftKings and FanDuel put it out. Probably not a good line though. Benitez inside the distance, like minus 200 on Bet Online, only minus 135 on 5 dimes. That's nuts. And then Ontiveros inside the distance is plus 425 on Bet Online, and then plus 400 on 5 dimes there. I'm curious to see what the first round props are. Ontiveros to win in round 1, Wheezy, plus 900. Ontiveros to win in the first round by knockout, plus 1,000. And then Benitez to win in round 1 plus 165. There we go. So yeah, I think there's going to be some violence. I'm curious to see what the other books put the props out at. But I think we can move on to the next one. We have Martin Buday going against Lukasz Brzeski. We have I don't think. Wait, let me double check. Yeah, we don't have an over or under yet. But we have the fight goes to decision on 5 dimes plus 145. The fight doesn't go to decision on 5 dimes is minus 185. That minus 185 really sticks out to me, just because I think Brzeski has about 2 minutes of cardio easy.
Yeah. And I mean, he's one of those guys who looks gassed 3 minutes into a fight, and it's because he is. But he's also one of those guys that kind of tends to fight through it and can still seemingly throw volume and stay in the fight, even though it looks like he's on his last breath. But Buday doesn't have that problem, and Buday is huge. Both of these guys are really big. And we do know that Lukasz Brzeski is also a juice head who has been caught cheating. And, you can take one look at the dude, and see that, he either lives in the gym on the squat rack and on the bench rack, or he's juicing. So, and Buday is just doesn't have the look of that kind of guy. So we got one guy who's going to be off the gas and another guy who was probably never on it. So, but only 65% implied probability that we're paying here on this line. And what we do know is that this division is finishing just over 63%. So that's priced right at the divisional finish rate here. And if we compare these two fighters at the UFC level, 2 out of 3 fights finished inside the distance, we're getting a 1.75% break there. And the fighter finish rates versus the divisional finish rate, 3.5% break. But we do see that 8 out of 11 of both of these guys' fights have finished inside the distance. So 16 of 22, that's 72.73%. And that's where we have the bigger sample size. Now, of course, they're fighting regional scene competition there. So, obviously, it's easier to finish the guys that both of these guys were fighting before they got to the UFC. But Brzeski has been finished in his only loss. And like I say, the guy's now being tested all the time, and he's already got caught cheating once. So we know that he's going to probably not be able to cheat this time. I do like violence here. And, I think Buday is just very dangerous, and especially if your conditioning is not on point, because you're going to be wearing this guy's weight either on the cage or on the ground, and his knees and his elbows are absolutely brutal. So I do like fight doesn't go to decision here, and I like the Buday finish only prop too.
Yeah, I like it as well. Something I want to mention is you take a look at Buday in his last fight. Like, he was on his way to finishing Chris Barnett. Like, he had Barnett extremely hurt in that second round and the third as well. And then he had that illegal knee, but he was so close to finishing Barnett. Barnett was almost out of there, and that illegal knee happened. So that very well could have been a finish if it kept going. But it was that technical decision. And then his only other decision win was his very first professional fight that was only 2 rounds. So Buday is definitely a finisher, and you got to believe if Brzeski does win, it's probably in like the first minute or so, because he has like the worst gassing I've ever seen. He's slowing down in like the first couple of minutes of the fight. So I think violence is definitely the way to go here. I'm going to double check on these lines here. We have, the fight doesn't go minus 185. I think that's very generous for this heavyweight fight. The fight goes plus 145. Buday inside the distance plus 105. Brzeski inside the distance is plus 380. And then those are about all the props we have. So still nothing yet from BetOnline, nothing yet from DraftKings, nothing like that. But I'm curious to see if BetOnline just put out a very generous minus 185 there. If they do anything better than like minus 200, I'll be hopping on.
Yeah, and I think you can bet it there. Like I say, the analytics say that it's fairly priced at minus 185, but we've got a very small sample size of fights between these two guys. And like you say, that elbow that Buday landed that was deemed illegal by Smitty, I don't know if that was illegal, dude. And that was finishing the fight. I mean, so like you say, this guy Buday is a finisher, and he's a good fighter. I think he's going to go a long way. He's got the right frame for the weight class. He's got excellent conditioning, and he's got really, really good durability. So, yeah, like Buday a lot here.
Sounds good. Let us move on to the next fight here. We have Loopy Godinez going against Angela Hill. We have the over-under set at 2.5 rounds. The over 2.5 rounds, minus 330 on BetOnline. Under 2.5 is plus 255. The fight goes to decision, minus 265 on BetOnline, plus 205 for the fight doesn't go. And then on 5 dimes, another big difference here. The fight goes is minus 335, and then the fight doesn't go is plus 245 there. So, yeah, we are expecting some non-violence here. And I completely agree with it, especially seeing Angela Hill's submission defense in her last fight against Verna Jandiroba. Definitely held up there. I'm kind of leaning Godinez and Godinez by decision on this one.
Yeah, and for the fight doesn't go, or fight goes to decision, I should say, we can see right here that where it's currently priced at minus 265, we're only overpaying by 3.34% when we compare it to the benchmark for the division of fights going to the decision, which is 69.27%, as we can see here that's highlighted. So not overpriced at this current level here. And then we can see Angela Hill's been to decision in 16 of her 20 UFC fights, and 1 or 2 of those has been a 5-rounder. And for Godinez, it's 4 of 5. And we know that Angela Hill is very, very durable. If Verna Jandiroba isn't submitting you on the ground, I don't think Loopy Godinez is. So I think that this fight is going to decision. And when you compare the fighter finish rates to the implied probability of the line, we're getting 7.4% break. When we compare the fighter decision rates to the divisional decision rate, we're getting a 10.73% break. So it's fairly priced here. And we could even take that over 2.5 as a parlay piece as well. But the over 2.5 in the fight goes for this one. I feel like our safe parlay pieces stylistically, because of Hill's durability, and because Godinez, not much of a finisher, only 2 of her 8 career wins are inside the distance. So, yeah, definitely like this one going the full 3 rounds. And I think stylistically, we can see that plays out well. And the prop template's telling us that we're not overpaying for it here. So that could potentially be a good parlay piece.
Yep, I like that. And I like that as a parlay piece. Yeah, minus 265 is not terrible. And you're getting a better price tag, even like Godinez just straight is minus 330. So I think the fight goes to decision. It covers both sides. Angela Hill's not finishing Loopy. And again, if Verna's not submitting Angela Hill, I don't think Godinez is. So I kind of like Godinez to kind of grind this one out. So yeah, don't mind that price tag at all. Doesn't seem really overpriced like it is on 5 dimes. Just curious though, if we had the minus 335, does that change anything like on 5 dimes? Like how overpriced is that?
Minus 335 for the fight goes to decision, right?
Yep, on 5 dimes.
Yeah, that takes us to a 77% implied probability. But when we compare a robust 25 fights between these two ladies at the UFC level, and 20 of them have went to decision, that's 80%. And when we compare it against the implied probability of the line at 77, we're still underpaying by 3%. When we compare it to the divisional decision rate, we're still underpaying by 10.73%. So even at minus 335. This is not overpriced.
All right, that's what I like to hear. So yeah, that's going to be something I heavily consider as far as a parlay piece goes.
Yeah.
All right, Weezy, let us keep moving on here. We have another clear violent spot, but another spot where BetOnline does not want us to bet this one. We have Gerald Meerschaert going against Bruno Silva. We have no over/under on this one yet, but we have the fight goes to decision. Okay, on BetOnline, it's plus 300. They're doing that again. The fight doesn't go as minus 400. On 5 dimes, the fight goes as plus 185, and the fight doesn't go as only minus 265. So another huge discrepancy between the books.
Yeah, another inversion in the market here. And BetOnline's telling you where this should be priced.
Yes.
Because it's an 80% implied probability. They're saying this fight finishes inside the distance 8 out of 10 times. And look, Silva and Meerschaert have 20 combined UFC fights, and guess how many of them have finished inside the distance? Exactly 80%. So this line is priced fairly at minus 400. Now, if you have 5 dimes and you have access to minus 265, go out there and max bet it.
Yeah,
you have to max bet it, because even if you don't like the bet on Saturday, you can get out by taking plus 300 or better for a fight does go to decision, and you can arb out and it'll be free money as long as you get better than plus 265. So that's a max bet if you can take it. And I wouldn't even arb out, because I think this one does finish inside the distance. Look, stylistically, if this thing stays standing with Bruno Silva's power, Gerald's going night-night, just like he did against Khamzat Chimaev. Okay? And if Silva doesn't fight with good IQ here, and this winds up getting taken to the ground, and he winds up grappling with Gerald Meerschaert, look, this guy's got 26 career wins by submission. And and Bruno Silva has 7 career losses. 5 of them are inside the distance, and they're all by submission. So stylistically, we love violence. Analytically, we're not even overpaying for it. Look, when you compare the fighter finish rates to the implied probability of the line, it's exactly 0. So it's a fair price. But, we have to remember, we'd rather pay a fair price at plus 100 than at minus 400, right? Because we got to be right 4 out of 5 times if we're paying, minus 400. At plus 100, if we're paying a fair price, it's a coin flip. We just got to be right 50% of the time. So you don't get killed in the long run if you're not right there. You get killed in the long run if you're picking the wrong minus 400s to back. So got to tread lightly. If you have access to 5 dimes, max bet the violence, and you can arb out easily for a guaranteed profit. You can use minus 400 as a parlay piece. Once again, this fight is finishing inside the distance, so might as well use it.
Yeah, and it's another spot where, like I said, I don't typically play an under 1.5, but I just really see this going over 7.5 minutes. Like, stylistically, I feel like on the feet, Silva kills Meerschaert. Like, it's not even close. And like you said, if this fight hits the mat, Meerschaert is definitely going to be live for a submission. I just don't see how on the feet Meerschaert lasts 7.5 minutes with Silva. And on the flip side, on the mat, I just don't see how Silva lasts with Meerschaert. So this is another spot where I'm going to take a very hard look at the under 1.5. Maybe the fight won't start round 3, and we'll be getting those lines out throughout the week for the fight won't start round 3. And I like that you have that there, Weezy. So we'll get to kind of compare it as well. So FanDuel, DraftKings should be getting that out, and I'm curious to see what how that kind of lines up throughout the week.
Yeah, absolutely. Because as the week goes on, the prop template becomes more and more valuable, because as we fill in the rest of these lines, we can take these numbers here and here and here and here and just kind of look at all the bets next to each other, look at how we see the fight taking place, and then determine where the value is. And it could be in the fight doesn't start round 3, or it could be in the under 1.5, or it could be in the fight doesn't start round 2, because the analytics are all going to line up just a little bit differently, and we can compare them against all the benchmarks, which I've spent all these hours compiling. So as the week goes on and as we start to fill out these lines, the prop template's going to become a lot more valuable. And the plan is, Brady, for me to release this as a Patreon so that, as the week goes on and I fill out these lines, people can pay to get access to it, and we'll be able to really have a great tool for all these over-under lines that we're looking at as the week goes on, as these lines move. will have access to all the analytics, and I think it'll be a great tool.
Oh yeah, absolutely. All right. Let's see. We have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 fights left. If you guys have not already, please be sure to leave a like on the video. Let's get those likes up. Also, if you're not already subscribed, subscribe here to the MMA Engine. We are going live every Monday, 9:30 p.m. Eastern Time for some probability. One of my favorite shows of the week. All right, next we have Cynthia Calvillo going against Nina Nunes, a fight that I will not be betting at all. We have the over-under set at 2.5 rounds. The over 2.5 minus 255 on 5 dimes. Under 2.5 is plus 195. The fight goes to decision minus 210 on Bet Online, and the fight doesn't go at plus 165. Wheezy, what do we have on this one here?
Yeah, from what I can tell, when I see small numbers like we do here, and here, it means that it's pretty fairly priced. And we see some small numbers here, 1.04 minus 2.37. minus 3.41. So yeah, it definitely looks like this is priced right about where it should be. 7 of their 19 combined fights at the UFC level have finished inside the distance. That's 36.84%. The implied probability of the fight doesn't go to decision line sitting right at 39%. So that feels pretty good, like it's well priced. 63.16% of their UFC fights have went to decision, and we're paying 67% for the fight goes here at minus 210. So that feels like it's priced just about right as well. Maybe a little bit more value here on the violent side than on the non-violent side. And I could bless a violence bet here because I could see either one of these ladies already having 1 or 2 feet out the door. That's kind of like how this fight feels to me. That's why we were calling it a 1-800-GAMBLER fight on Stat Diggers, because it's like, would you be surprised if whoever lost this fight left their damn gloves in the cage? I wouldn't be.
Nope.
Yeah. So how do you bet that this fight's going to go to decision? Because one of the things when you're betting a fight goes, you better be pretty damn sure that neither fighter wants to quit. That's a pretty good criteria to have when you're looking for a fight to go a full 15 minutes. You better hope that both fighters show up wanting to fight and not wanting to quit. I could see either of these ladies quitting. So, maybe fight doesn't go at plus 155 or under 2.5. Calvillo's submissions are really good, and we've shown that when Calvillo's standing against a good striker, she's blocking punches with her face and just not looking good there. So, yeah, I could see this fight finishing inside the distance. Do I want to run to the window to bet anything on this fight, though, Brady? I don't think so, man.
Yeah, I'm not laying a dime on this fight. And yeah, I think it does go to decision, but just laying minus 210 on anything in this fight is just terrifying to me. I think we can move on. I want nothing to do with that one there. We have the next fight. We have Azamat Murzakanov going against Devin Clark. We have the over-under is set at 2.5 rounds. The over 2.5 rounds plus 125 on Bet Online. Under 2.5 rounds is minus 155. The fight goes to decision on Bet Online is plus 145. The fight doesn't go is minus 175. And then on 5 dimes, the fight goes to decision is only plus 100, and the fight doesn't go to decision is only minus 140 there. So a little bit of a difference there between the books. So this is a fight where I feel like if there's a finish, it's probably on the Murzakanov side. And if there's a decision, it's probably on the Devin Clark side. I'm going to be taking a look at the finish only for Murzakanov, the decision only for Devin Clark. But I think it's kind of pick your side here. Devin Clark, not much of a finisher. Murzakanov, he is a finisher.
Absolutely. And the numbers, they've fleshed that out. Devin Clark has 7 wins in the UFC. Only one of them has been a finish. And Murzakanov's never lost. And then you look at Murzakanov, 100% of his UFC wins are finishes, and 83.33% of Devin Clark's losses at the UFC level are finishes. So if we can find a Murzakanov finish-only prop here at better than minus 200, that's worth a bet because he is the far more explosive fighter here. And he's a Sambo champion. And something that really needs to be talked about here is the fact that we remember what Ion Cutelaba did to Devin Clark, right? You remember that? That was hard to watch. I can't believe that fight didn't finish inside the distance. Devin Clark showed incredible durability and heart in that fight. But the problem is that Azamat Murzakanov did to Ion Cutelaba what Ion Cutelaba did to Devin Clark in an old Sambo tournament some years back. He absolutely kicked the shit out of Ion Cutelaba. So that's terrifying here, because we do have a guy that has nearly ended Clark's life, who's now Clark's going to be fighting the guy who destroyed Cutelaba some years back. So I do like Azamat Murzakanov in this spot. And he is a very violent fighter, and he lands big shots early. When these guys are dry, I think it's going to be very live for either one of them to land a big shot, as Clark throws with heat as well, man. And we saw it in the Knight fight. He wore on Knight. He got Knight tired, and then he finished him in the third round with a big elbow in the clinch. So, minus 175 for fight doesn't go is a 63.64% implied probability. That's only overpriced by 2.91% when we compare it to the long-term benchmark of the division. It's overpriced by 10.3% when we compare the fighter finish rates, and it's overpriced by 7.4% when we compare the fighter finish rates to the divisional finish rate. So it's all overpriced here for violence, and that's because Devin Clark, his fights are only finishing inside the distance 46% of the time. But with Murzakanov, we've got pretty much a killer be killed fighter here who's been, only been a decision twice in 11 professional fights. So, yeah, this is one I'm leaning on the violent side here, but it even though it looks like it's not overpriced at minus 175, it kind of is overpriced at minus 175, just because Devin Clark is somebody who tries to win minutes. And he's going to wrestle. And Murzakanov's comfortable in the wrestling exchanges. So, I could see this going the distance.
Yeah, I could as well. And just before that William Knight fight last time out, the last finish that Devin Clark, that was actually his first UFC finish. So I don't even know when his last finish was prior to that Knight fight. And he has a good amount of UFC fights. It's like, 12 or 13?
13 UFC fights. He's never finished anyone before William Knight. And William Knight's a 205er.
Yeah. So, by the way, the finish only prop for Murzakanov is minus 285. So they're definitely all over that one.
Yeah. That makes sense, dude. As a bookie, I wouldn't want to be laying a fair price on that one either. Clark's just not a finisher, and Murzakanov is. So, yeah, that's this one here. I wouldn't mind if anyone chased violence on this one, but I think the value is actually on the overs here. And really, if Murzakanov doesn't land that knee in the third against Tafan, that fight probably goes to decision. And Devin Clark's a kind of a similar opponent, in my opinion. So, yeah, this one feels kind of like a stay away here. If the violence bets keep getting bid up here, non-violence might be the way to go. But in the meantime, I think I'm just going to stay away.
Yeah, I think I'm going to stay away as well. Let's move on to the next fight. We have 3 left. We have Yazmin Waragай going against Lasmin Lucindo. We have the no over-under yet. We have the fight goes decision. On BetOnline is minus 180. The fight doesn't go to decision, it's plus 150. But on 5 dimes, they have the fight goes minus 155, and the fight doesn't go at plus 115. So big difference there. And honestly, that plus 150 on BetOnline for the fight doesn't go is kind of sticking out. Both fighters are very good finishers, especially Yazmin. Yazmin is vicious on the feet, very much has some power there. I was kind of looking at that fight doesn't go at plus 150 there.
It's interesting. It's interesting because it's overpriced by 9.27% when we compare it to the 115-pound finish rate, which is right around 31%. So you take 31 minus 40, you get negative 9.27%. That's the number right there. But here's the thing. 76% of these ladies' combined pro fights, and there's 25 of them, have finished inside the distance. And we've got a very interesting thing here. Yazmin Lucindo is fighting at 115 pounds. She hasn't fought there since 2019, Brady. She's taken this fight on 10 days' notice.
Oh, wow.
Yeah. So this violence bet here at plus 150 is very interesting. I also think that Yazmin Yaregui inside the distance to get better than that plus 150, maybe get a plus 200 money. Look, some of these girls that she's fought, Brady, they look like they got thrown off of a moving bus after the fight. In the McKenna fight, She fought a girl named McKenna something. She busted this girl up so bad that the referee stopped it after the second round. I think she broke both of her orbitals. This one fight on the Brazilian regional scene, she bloodied this girl's forehead up so bad that they stopped it like with 1 second left in the first round. She's mean. She throws in combination. She actually does a great job of mixing in wrestling and getting back up when her opponents take her down. I like Yaregi quite a bit in this spot, and that plus 150, even though it's overpriced by 9.27%, when we compare the 40% implied probability of that line to this lady's long-term finish rates, we're talking about 76 minus 40. We're getting a 36% break there. So at plus 150 on Bet Online, that's a bettable bet. I think I might be sprinkling like maybe 3/4 of a unit on Violence in this spot because, like I say, Lucindo taking this fight on short notice, cutting down to 115 for the first time in 3 years, and both of these ladies are making their UFC debut. That means we might see some jitters. We might see adrenaline dumps. There's a lot of narrative issues that lead us to believe that this thing being overpriced 9.27% in accordance to the long-term benchmark is not nearly enough and that we should be hitting that line.
Yeah, and on top of that, Lucindo has been finished quite a bit. I think it's, 3 out of 4 losses?
Yes, 3 out of 4 for Lucindo, and Yaregi has never lost.
Yep, she is undefeated there. But yeah, Lucindo's dangerous in her own right as well. The Yazmin inside the distance is plus 195. Yeah, that plus 150 is really sticking out. On 5 dimes, it actually opened up minus 105. I saw it there last night. I was like, okay, they kind of got it right there because I was thinking Violence. And then I saw the minus 105. I was kind of turned off by that. But the plus 150 on Bet Online, now that's something I can definitely get behind.
I agree, man. I think it's a cheeky spot, and the narrative things make it even better. And then we love that 19 of their 25 combined fights have been inside the distance. Yeah, matter of fact, I'm going to go bet that right now.
Sounds good to me. All right,
let us log in to do it. So I'm going to wait until after the show, you guys. Don't bet it up. Don't bet it up, all right?
Sounds good. No moving lines, guys. Come on. All right, we got 2 fights left. We have Nate Landwehr going against David Onama. We have no over-unders. We have the fight goes to decision, a plus 190 on Bet Online. The fight doesn't go to decision. It's minus 230. This is one where I think there will be violence. David Onama has a 100% finish rate. Landwehr has been finished a few times. But to be honest, I'm just not really running to the window for that minus 230. I might just pass on this one. But curious to see what the prop template says, Weezy.
Yeah, the prop template says you are overpaying here when you compare that long-term benchmark at 145 pounds, which is around 43%. When we take 43 minus 69, we get negative 26.44%. But when we compare these two fighters' UFC finish rates for and against combined, we see that we're underpaying by 1.73% when we compare those finish rates at 71.43% to the 69.7% implied probability of the line. And we're underpaying by 28% when we compare the fighter finish rates at 71.43% to the long-term finish rate of the division, which is 43%. So these guys are finishing at a much higher rate than featherweights are finishing. But as a result of that, we're paying a much higher price in comparison to what the long-term benchmark is. But we've got a killer be killed fighter in David Onama. 10 of his 11 fights have finished inside the distance. And Nate Landwehr, 3 of his 4 losses inside the distance, 60% of his wins inside the distance. So, and Landwehr is not fighting in Russia anymore. He's not fighting guys that wrestle for the full 15 minutes and try to hold you down. So this is going to be a situation where I think both of these guys are going to have plenty of time on the feet to throw those big hammers that they love to throw. Somebody's going to get slept. I think that this one does finish inside the distance. But like you said, man, 145-pound fights are only finishing 43% of the time. To pay 69% implied probability, it's very overpriced. It's very overpriced. So I'm not running to the window either.
Yeah, and I even thought about maybe Onama inside the distance. He has that 100% finish rate. Landwehr's been finished in 75% of his losses. I don't know if Landwehr finishes Onama. Like, Onama is stupid tough, man. Like, remember the beating Mason Jones put on him? He just wouldn't go down. Just ate so many shots there. So I do like Onama in this fight. I like him inside the distance. Minus 105 is not terrible, but I think I might just sit back on this one and watch it, honestly. But we have the main event here. We have Marlon Vera going against Dominic Cruz and Wheezy. I have a huge bet on this fight. I can't wait to talk about it. We have the over-under is set at 4.5 rounds. The over 4.5 is minus 200. The under 4.5 rounds is plus 160. The fight goes to decision is minus 150, and the fight doesn't go to decision is plus 120. This is kind of like the Azamat Devin Clark fight where we have someone in Dominic Cruz who is not a finisher at all. In the last 15 years, Dominic Cruz only has 3 finishes, and one of them was like a doctor stoppage. On the flip side, you have a finisher in Marlon Vera. In the last 10 years, he has 15 finishes. And on top of that, Marlon Vera has next level toughness and durability. 7 losses, I believe, and then never been finished in those. So I kind of think if this fight does finish, it's going to be Marlon Vera. If this fight goes to decision, I could also see Marlon Vera winning decision based off the damage. But Dominic Cruz, if he wins, I think it's by decision, Weezy.
Yeah, well, look, Marlon Vera's got 19 wins and 15 of them are finishes as a pro. Dominic Cruz has 3 losses as a pro and 2 of them are finishes. Now, Cruz, on the other hand, 8 finish wins and 24 wins, only 33%. And Vera has 7 losses and he's never been finished. So you got a guy that's incredibly durable in Vera against the guy who, couldn't break a pane of glass in Dominic Cruz here. So obviously that finish only prop for Marlon Vera is looking good. Unfortunately, I don't have a 5-round prop template. That's going to take a whole nother week and a whole lot of other programming. But in this case, what we can do is look at the analytics here for 5-round fights. And we're going to look specifically at the bantamweight division. Now, for 5-round fights here, I've got the analytics 5 tab down here. Fight doesn't go to decision about 40% of the time, and fight goes to decision 60% of the time. So right now, for fight doesn't go to decision, we're paying a 45% implied probability. But fights aren't going to decision about 60% of the time. So we're actually getting about a 15% break on violence here. And we're actually overpaying by 20% when we compare the fight goes to decision at minus 150. That's a 60% implied probability, but only 40% of 5-round fights at the 135-pound division are going to the scorecards here. So right now, the value is on violence at plus 120. Now, unfortunately, what are the odds that Dominic Cruz is going to finish Marlon Vera? It would be, like you said, dude, an injury. And this is a main event, so there's a 50% chance that one of these guys gets injured, before the bell. So that's like your banana peel situation for Cruz there is if, Vera goes out there and just pulls a hamstring or something and can't stand up. But what is most likely going to happen is that this fight probably does go over the full 5 rounds just because of Dominic Cruz's style, but you're really overpaying for it. When you compare the decision rates of these two fighters, it's 57.1%, but you're paying 60% on the line. So even though minus 150 looks pretty good, I think that the fight doesn't go at plus 120 is a much better look. And it includes what I think is the more likely scenario here, and that's Marlon Vera winning this fight. And if he does win this fight, it means he's getting his hands on Cruz and he's hurting him. So, and if he does that, I think he finishes the aging Dominic Cruz here. But not running to the window for this one either, brother. I got to tell you, man, it's an interesting stylistic matchup, and I'd much rather go after those finish-only props for Marlon Vera, which are juiced to the tits. But you know what? I'll just lay the bet down because it's like, okay, if Dominic Cruz is the first guy to finish Marlon Vera, then it's just that kind of night. Mama told me there'd be days like these, and it'd be one of those. But at least it wouldn't be a bad read by us.
Yeah. I max bet the finish only prop for Vera. I wanted to wait for DraftKings and FanDuel, but I just don't think that line will be there much longer. So I got that at minus 325. And how many wins did you say that Cruz has inside the distance?
It says 8 out of 24, but that's as a pro. He's got 7 UFC wins, and only one of them is inside the distance, and it was against Takeya Mizugaki.
Yeah, I was just counting. Like before 2010, he has 7 finishes. After 2010, I think he has like 1.
Yeah. Yeah, it's just that's his fighting style. Dominic Cruz is a minute winner, and he's fucking great at it. But he's not looking to finish guys, and he's not going to finish Marlon Vera without a shovel or a knife. So it's this is pretty easy. I think that finish only prop for Vera is a great spot.
Yeah, I mean, I think he needs more than a shovel there. And yeah, Dominic Cruz, we have seen him get hurt in his last couple fights. He got hurt against Munoz in that first round, right? He's now 37 years old. He's getting up there. Marlon Vera is a killer. I could definitely see Vera finishing Cruz as the fight goes on. And me and Russian were talking about it on Stat Diggers last night. He was like, maybe those Vera props didn't hit last time against Rob Font, which, by the way, they should have. My goodness. But they may hit this time. I might get it back, Weezy. I might sprinkle that 3rd, 4th, 5th again for Marlon Vera. And hopefully this time Marlon Vera is able to get the job done because he was so freaking close in the Rob Font fight.
He was, man. That was I can't believe, because for some reason I wasn't able to watch that fight that night, and I'm watching, like the UFC stats compile, and I know you add those bets. I'm like, dude, how does he have 4 knockdowns and he hasn't finished this guy yet? And I'm like, Brady must be putting his back through his TV yet, because you still see that the fight was still going on. I can't believe you didn't cash those bets. That would have been a huge night for you had you hit any of one of those 3rd, 4th, and 5th round props.
Yeah, it was like the 3rd round was like plus 2,000. The 4th round was like plus 2,200. The 5th round was like plus 2,800. Just insane odds on those, and they were all right there. But maybe get it back this week against Dominic Cruz. But yeah, Weezy, we did it. We went through all the fights. We'll do a quick recap. I know you've been taking some notes. What spots really stuck out to you?
So the fight doesn't go to decision for Buday Brzeski is not overpriced. I think that's a really good one. The fight goes to decision for Hill Godinez feels like a good one. And I love the plus 150 fight doesn't go to decision for Yadegi against Lucindo. But other than that, I'm really not liking a lot of other stuff here. Maybe, we talked about the fight goes for Hill Godinez. So I could see, if we throw Silva Meerschaert, fight doesn't go to decision. Buday Brzeski, fight doesn't go to decision. And then fight goes to decision for Hill Godinez. Where would that leave us?
So fight goes for Hill Godinez. The fight doesn't go in the
Buday Brzeski.
Not showing up on best fight odds. I don't think fightodds.io has a parlay calculator, which sucks, but I'm putting in the Meerschaert. So the Meerschaert fight doesn't go to decision, you said?
Yes.
Okay. So the Meerschaert fight doesn't go to decision with the fight doesn't go to decision, or the fight goes to decision to Loopy. That is minus 139, and I'm not sure what it would be if you added that Brzeski there.
Yeah, you know what? Let's leave that as the parlay. Minus 139. Meerschaert Silva fight doesn't go. Hill Godinez fight goes. And then the Buday Brzeski can be a straight bet. And then also, I believe the Yadegi fight doesn't go to decision. Could be a nice little plus money straight bet. And then if you want to bet some variance, try the fight doesn't go for Calvillo Nunes. And that's on the narrative idea that one of these ladies might have both feet out the door already.
And I think they do, honestly. So we'll see. Yeah, wouldn't be shocked if either fighter hung it up after the fight. But yeah, we did it. We talked about some spots. We got the parlay in there. All that's left is letting the people know where they can find you, what you have going on throughout the week for some content.
Yeah, check me out on Twitter at MMA Wheezy. You can check me out on my YouTube channel, Uncle Wheezy. Tomorrow night, 10 o'clock Central Time, after the Contender Series, we'll be breaking down all 13 of these fights from a tape study and statistics perspective. We'll finish with Uncle Wheezy's ass shaving of the week. Like I said, I'm going to put out some feelers to figure out when I should put out a Patreon that will allow everybody to be able to, that pays to download this prop template and get early access to the stats that I usually put out on Twitter every week. I haven't put out the stats on Twitter this week. I'll put them out right now for you guys. And yeah, check me out on Uncle Wheezy's YouTube channel, on the MMA Engine YouTube channel, on Pub Sports Radio. And then the only thing left to do is the stack cash tickets like flapjacks for UFC San Diego, everyone.
Let us do it. Yeah, guys, you can follow me on Twitter, DFS_numbers. Instagram is DFS by the numbers. Full card breakdown should be out tomorrow, and then some live streams throughout the week. Catch me on Pub Sports Radio. Catch me here on the MMA Engine, and then, of course, on DFS by the numbers. That's about it, guys. Best of luck for UFC San Diego. Let us make